That's what makes me special, I tell her. It's what they keep coming back for. They can't believe it's real. They come to me for inspiration, and I ask for praise in return. I'm a real writer's writer. Writers are often poor in pocket and full of themselves. Getting praise from them is a real sincere form of payment. When they want to be more like you, is there anything better? That's from page 45 of The Better Face of Fascism by Bibles. And this is the book I'm going to talk about today. This is my fourth attempt at trying to start this video. I get tongue-tied and twisted trying to describe what it is that draws me specifically to this book. If you started to subscribe to this channel, or you typically come to this channel because of my translated literature reviews, you know that I've talked about, hey, I'm not just going to focus on that. I'm going to broaden my thing, but I think this is the first book I'm going to talk about that's contemporary, and it's not translated. So it's from America, and it is an American novel, and I think it's worth pointing that out, okay? Because if you've come for those other things, like this one might be one you skip, which I totally understand. Okay, there's that part. What's the next caveat? Oh yes, the next caveat. This is written by Bibles, okay? And Bibles is not a person's name, but we're gonna get to that. This is the back cover. It is all black. There's an ISBN number and Expat Press, which is the small press that this is on. This is a small press book. This is an experimental book. And then there is can you see that? Appropriature. I don't know if you can see or not, which I think is like the handle for Bibles. I don't think it is. It is the handles for Bibles. So those are the two identifying marks we have of authorship. And authorship is going to be extremely important as we talk about this work. All right, let's start us off with a quote about writers writing. Well, the plot of this book, summarized without messing with anything, is a 30-year-old bookseller in Utah, bookseller / writer, bookseller to pay the bills, writer to pay the soul, that kind of thing. His wife is pregnant. And so from sort of the time that we know that she's pregnant until, so how long is that? 9 months, right? That's like normal. That's the thing people know. 9 months or so. Would follow his journey in the oncoming state of fatherhood. So this is going to speak to me personally in a couple of ways. One, I'm a father. I have 2 kids, okay? So I've been specifically there. I had my first kid when I was 29, just turning 30. Yes, okay, we got it. Check. I tried to write. I don't write this well, but I try to write. So the writer in me is going to appreciate something like that first section that I wrote, right? Well, there's plenty of points where I personally am not going to stay with the narrator. The narrator is unrelenting in his quest to leave no derangement uncovered, to leave no stray thought which might put yourself, if it was, say, in the public sphere, or if your name was attached to it, you might quickly run or be canceled or whatever. This narrator is interested in many ways in stabbing at that wound or air, because if something is truly deeply offensive to you, then it is a wound. And as you stab into the wound, it's going to hurt more and more and more. It's going to bring up this trauma, and those things are real, and I don't want to deny those. But err in that, if it is something that society or culture collectively has decided is an offensive thing, but it does not actually offend you, then perhaps it's stabbing at air. Okay. I don't have yeah, the basics of the story that are very sort of simple, right? That plot and that point of your life. Where this work transcends and where it becomes, to me, I think the most exciting contemporary American literature I've read, and this is an American novel. I'm going to have some trouble, by the way, as I talk about this book. Since I mentioned this is my fourth time trying, some things I hope I haven't repeated. If I do, I apologize. Some things I will think I have said and I haven't. Let me tell you this. I think this is the kind of book that I'm not going to talk about in a 15-minute video and write one tweet about and then be done with it. This is the kind of book that I think I will spend a long time thinking about, talking about, and perhaps writing about. I don't know. It's just the sort of text that for me personally is just going to stick. It's going to stick. This thing works for me. And so maybe instead of me trying to figure out why or what or how, I'll just dive into some things I really like. All right. I'm going to go in order for the things that as I was reading, I flagged, and we'll talk after each one. I have not looked at it in advance because I hate preparing. People get obsessed with me. Page 105. It's a fact of life and something I've got to accept. Blame the magnetism that comes with being an all-time star. I've got fans clinging to every minute of my day. There's the creep with the van who won't let off telling me to watch the Manson special. The guy who is paying $10,000 to have his positive thinking book published, and the man who won't stop trying to connect with me on Facebook. Bibles, the narrator, is a star of his own universe, which is how we all feel in one way or another, okay? It's that type of egotism. It's that kind of prison of the self. Bibles is writing this stuff in real time. It gives you that feel, right? So he's capturing this mood, but it's not a journal. It's not a diary. Because it's crafted differently. It's crafted in a more traditional novel form, but you kind of can tell that it's like happening in real time, and you're trying as a reader to always like catch up to that moment. He calls it currentivism, which I can't give a good definition of. I don't know what that means. I think it means right now, and that everything that we do, say, write, put out it's all part of the work. It's all part of the now and thing. But that's just a guess. Let's keep moving. There are incredible side characters in here, side stories and plots with the people that he works with at the bookstore, his wife, his family, which is a very funny, yeah. My wife guzzles, the bottled water tastes so good. My wife guzzles one after another. Page 107. She needs so many vitamins. I'm inhibiting my heart, Gary. This is a hysterical pregnancy. That's what Jamie Beth calls it. I like to think of it as the art of the craft. I'm doing this all for store credit. You're looking at a man trying to find all the ways in which a baby can be both born and unborn. This is a matter of me being up to the task, not you. You're just getting in my way. For too long, Gary, you have been a side piece in my COD warfare. I'd like to say that I hope we'll be at war forever, B-boys for life and all that. Call it Pat Brody and the Buffalo Brothers, but you don't trust me to take you on this ride. You don't trust me, it's the track. So I really liked one little simple line in there. I'm doing this all for store credit. I mean, I like all, but I'm doing this all for store credit. Let's hit back to the beginning where we said writer's writer, okay? He's working at the store. I'm doing all this for store credit. You know, this is someone, to me at least, the narrator there, that's someone addicted to literature in almost a Enrique Villamatas way. You know, has that literature sickness, has that sickness of the writer. All right, page 109. Detective Morgan on the case, codename Bibles, the appropriateur. I'm wearing my Jägermeister shirt. I've got the rent check in my invisible cities. Most of my notes are confidential police business. There's blueberry lemonade in my vaporizer. The paper coming out of my car is making me a new life. Suburban Homeboy is playing on the radio. I wonder how many friends I have. Ain't no way I'm dumb, cheap, and a creep. I could be getting more positive press. I've always done such great work over the years. I spend a good amount of energy trying to remain separate from the masses. I'm better at doing my own thing. I'm better when I dip myself into the abstract. This is not serious to me in the way that it's serious to you. This is an experiment. I've told you, I've got French DNA. We all have to go through a cathartic phase. I've told you once and I'll tell you again. I'm not here for you. I'm here for myself. Get over it. Go. Leave me alone. I don't want to be a real human anymore. The less you make me think of you, the more that I win. You can remove me, but you cannot remove me. The way that that propels is exhilarating to me. And then that idea of, I have a visual there of the rent check in the invisible cities, like in the copy of the book, you know, like, and just twirling around like this feverish energy. All right, let's keep moving. Maybe I'm not going to explain anything. Maybe I'm just going to read a few of my favorite bits. Should I do that? Can I do that? I think I can do whatever. I hope so. Oh, page 119 has, in my opinion, one of the... It's like a sideline. Well, let me read more of it than I've highlighted. That way okay. He's talking about his relationship with his wife. Somehow, 119, narrator's relationship with his wife. Somehow my position within the relationship has been one of trying to keep everybody happy, even though ideologically I'm all about existing within the misery of the moment. I am, however, a creature of comfort. Unhappiness and strife within the marriage disturbs my peace, and as such, I have to fight her and the reality that she is being responsible enough to acknowledge. The only weapon that I've got in my arsenal is the fact that it's late, which makes it impossible to deal with the issue at the moment, so you might as well forget about it, set an alarm, and deal with this later, when it can be dealt with. I'm fighting realism with realism. There's no reason to be stressed when the stress isn't doing anything to help you overcome the adversity. The stress is the punishment. Roll out from underneath that pulverizing fist. Hide for the night, and we will strike. Or better, shall I say, you will strike when there's a strike to be had. Okay. That's within the confines of this relationship moment, why we're not going to fight tonight, all that stuff that is fairly familiar domestically. And in that, he says, the narrator says, I'm fighting realism with realism. And that stuck with me throughout this whole text because the lines are so blurred here between whoever the author really is, because this is such realism. But then there is Bibles, who is credited, and Bibles is a entity, but also like an entity outside of the text of this, okay? Like there's writing online you can find from Bibles. You can, that ad appropriateur, like you can find his Twitter, his, social medias, like whatever. Like there's, someone, obviously not named Bibles, creating this stuff, okay? And we talked about this kind of pseudonymity with After Denver, with Big Bruiser Dope Boy, and the pros and cons and the reasons and whatnot. But this takes at another approach where some of the things, again, like I think I said in the beginning, if this wasn't the third, second, or first try, are things you would never say out loud attached to your name and stuff. But it's thrilling to read. It is thrilling to see and experience it through someone else who is not you and who is whose fears and insecurities and foibles and egotism, while some may be familiar but trust your own, like they're wholly separate. So it's letting you completely into the ego of this narrator, into a level of consciousness within the narration that I think is extremely rare. It follows a literary tradition. Let's not get me wrong. Henry Miller, certainly, in the first page, Celine, I can never pronounce it right, is brought up Celine is clearly an influence, and I never know how much of that, like, I'm not going to get into like a Celine discussion during the end of the night. Was, it's good. It's good, and the descriptions and the rants are very good writing. But he was obviously a terrible person. I don't think that's arguable. This comes at it by doing pseudonymity and anonymity, a word I can't say but can spell, by saying, why do you care? Why do you care who the writer is? Why does it matter? What does it matter if I really felt this? Fighting realism with realism, to me, is about stacking realism on top of realism on top of realism to the point where it's, okay, did you get a full picture? Is everyone satisfied? And in this stage of social media and sharing that we're in, that's a fair question you have to ask. Like, have you gotten enough? Have you not? Okay, come deeper then, come more. Have I given you enough of this? Because then what you can do is you can start to hide things. You can hide lies in nonfiction. You can hide truth in fiction. It goes back to that Barth's, death of an author. That's what I think is super fascinating about this, is it really does, it has something to say about that. It really has something to say about separating the art from the artist. But what this does is it plays in that middle ground where, what if we watched the artist create art while we are separating the artist from the art? Where will it blur? Where will the lines be drawn? Page 140. I intend to liberate myself, and I'm bringing literature with me. We are one and the same. You pay me $1 a month, I'll send you a post of your choosing quarterly, signed. $5 gets you the year's worth of writing in book form. $25 and I'll read in a location of your choosing. We can even hang out because audience is power. Further down. If you meet me, though, I've got to warn you, the primary entity that you'll... And I stop there. That's one of the juiciest, meatiest parts. And I'm not going to spoil that for you. So that part I flagged for me, and if you're reading it, if you get it, page 140, if you've read it or you are going to read it, page 140 right there. And I think that is that sort of that flip moment where, oh, okay, I think I see the perspective we're now playing with. All right, let's keep rolling. 155, this line, this is an example of the humor, because one of the first things that like this book's going to do is, in the first 30 pages or so, you are going to be kind of caught off guard. Okay, what? Okay. We're getting super detailed into one kind of hyper-masculine, sort of alpha, but typically insecure, the way you'd expect an alpha to be, dude. And why? Like, why am I still reading? What propels everything and gets you where you need to be, if that's not something that you would already enjoy, like that style? Some people, that first few pages, they're just going to be right in it, and they're going to be like, okay, I just want to know what happens. What does this dude do? But if it doesn't, it's the humor of the work that really drives you forth to where you get, like all great literature, you get that unreal satisfaction at some point when like everything kind of clicks and you're just in love with the work. Today is her birthday, she says. You should think about getting her some vodka. But Jamie Beth is a recovering alcoholic. Nobody cares, nobody believes her, and nobody supports her. It's awful, but it's full of those awful things. 157. I've got time yet, I say, even if you're not impressed, I no longer need you. It's me that I'm most interested in, and I've still got at least another life or two left in me, so I'm not going to hastily pass this one over. Don't count me out in the here and now. I'm finding gold in this urine-infested rat hole. Here, I say, is a place that I can conquer, so prepare to hate me again. I could really use the energy. I've quit vaping entirely. Now I'll rely on conversations to pass the time. So when my mother-in-law suggests that we give our baby the fictional name that I gave to my wife's twin, I almost can't take it anymore. This pregnancy is swimming in my head, like how it is swimming in my wife's belly, everything banging against the scene for just one more drag. One of the reasons that it works so well is the life event that it's centered around. Because I can tell you this as a 30-something dad. You just don't know yet. You don't know what that means, what that is, how that feels yet. And for that period, when your wife is pregnant before you've had a kid, you are within your own head wrestling with so many self-absorbed thoughts and thought patterns. Because again, you just don't know. You know that change is about to come in an unfathomable form, but what does that mean for you? It's one thing to read about it and see it, talk to your friends about it, right? But it's just not the same because you are only you. That's all you can be. And so the self-absorption that exists in the Better Face of Fascism works because of the life event that is plotting throughout, because of what you're following. We'll do 164. I don't want to be alone with their parents anymore. They're all going to think I'm chatting up some chick the way I'm sitting here writing into my phone, texting, as they say. In a way, of course I am. Times New Viking and all. But really though, I'm not a direct cheater or nothing. Can the grand all be considered an individual? The general audience? My little cult following? I want to be by myself with everyone. We return to her mother's apartment and I make a beeline to the porch. Call it currentivism. Call it whatever you want. None of it matters. I'm not feeling much like living, so I keep not buckling my seatbelt. We're going to get pizza. There's a guy there who wasn't nice to Mother last time. I don't know how to sum up a project that feels ongoing. In other words, one of my favorite books is that Shadow Country. It's a total it's not messing with self or autofiction or anything like that. But Peter, gosh, I can't remember the name. It's the guy who co-founded the Paris Review. But anyway, he released it in 3 parts and then later kind of got put together. And this is what that feels like. This feels like one part of some larger work. There's not a summation, but there's a thrill in being put into a narrator in the way that you're put into this narrator. And I don't think a lot of writers could pull it off. Obviously, there's a ton of first-person point of view stuff. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about something more vulnerable. But authenticity is questionable because authorship is blurred. And it puts the audience front and center. It involves the audience, it involves the reader, and your own ego and foibles and your own filthy bits and derangement syndrome and your own egotism and your own life in a way that is impressive, hard sometimes to grapple with, but ultimately really successful, and I liked it a lot. It's the Better Face of Fascism Bibles. It is from Expat Press, and I don't think they even sell their books on Amazon. I think that might be like a political choice or whatever. So, I'll link or something like to the place you can get it if you want it. I don't usually do that, but this, again, it's like a small press, so like this is the kind of work that needs more people talking about it. And to be frank, I think that I'm probably the worst person to talk about it, and it would be far better if this was a conversation about it, but this is all I got right now. So be good to folks.